So God hates amputees? You mean to tell me that God hates my buddy Ryan? Hey, I ran into my buddy Ryan, and this is his story. I don't think God hates him.
Okay, well, first I'll give my story. Basically, I was a top caliber wrestler, been wrestling since I was a young man. And my sophomore season, right before the state tournament, I injured my knee. I tore my meniscus in my knee. So my season was over. I rehabilitated. Coming back the next season, first tournament back, I tore my meniscus again. And I was pretty devastated because I was seated. I was actually ranked 16th in the country at the time. And I was really wrestling well that whole off season. I had won a few tournaments in the off season, and once the school season started, I injured my knee practicing with Team California. Then I rehabilitated all summer. I worked out as hard as I could. Got back. I even did landscaping just to as my job. I went to a doctor to get a second opinion on my knee. He told me my knee was fine, but that I had these spots on my shin that he couldn't identify. So I had to go to a specialist in San Francisco. They x-rayed them and did some tests, and they found out that it was this thing called osteofibrous dysplasia differentiated adamantinoma. It's one of the most rare forms of cancer that a person can have. There's about 100 cases documented in history in the United States. And so at this time I was 18 years old, and they were trying a lot of experimental surgeries to save my leg and to save my life, really. They hollowed out my shin bone a couple times and used bone from my hip and cadaver bone and replaced the space that they had carved out. Every time the tumors kept coming back, and what was so painful is once my leg would get back healed, these tumors would grow quickly and split my bone. So when I was stepping on a splintered bone, or in the middle of the night I would wake up, felt like somebody had whacked me with a bat in the shin. It was because my bones were splitting from these tumors growing so fast. It was really painful. I was on pain medicine, which I didn't like. My grades were falling because I just didn't, I didn't care because I was in so much pain, and I had, the thoughts of, am I going to die, and all this type of thing. Anyway, it started getting a little better, and skiing is my second favorite thing to do besides wrestling, and I was skiing, and I was on some moguls, and I hopped from one mogul to the next, and my leg broke over the front of my boot because these tumors had grown a lot faster than they were supposed to, and that anybody had known. And so my leg was just about as strong as a graham cracker. Broke over my boot, so my leg was broken. They couldn't set it, and they couldn't put a rod through it like they normally would because they didn't want to spread the tumors up and down my leg and cause more problems. So what ended up happening is they when they were trying to figure out what to do, I ended up just being in a soft walking cast, and the blood that was flowing to heal my leg wasn't going to heal the bones, it was going to feed these tumors. And I ended up getting a tumor about the size of maybe half of a lemon on my shin. And these doctors didn't know what to do, and there's experimental surgeries that one or two people had gone through that had marginal success. But I felt like nobody was really giving me a definitive, what I should do and what are my chances of living here. And so I went to a doctor and I said, out of 100 people that the tumors have gotten to this stage, how many are going to live? And he said maybe 10 out of 100. 1 in 10 people will survive from this. So I said, let's get this off. Let's get this leg off and get going. And at the time I wasn't afraid because my whole life I've believed in God, and I've believed that every adversity makes you stronger and gives you a better purpose. I doubted it, of course, because I was a young man. I guess I was 20 by then. I doubted, am I going to have a great life with my leg off? At this point I was in a lot of pain, and I was facing death, so I didn't really have many choices. either try experimental surgery and still possibly die, or have it amputated. And I felt actually abnormally calm. You would think that I'd be pretty nervous about, having my leg amputated at a young age, being an athlete. But I was calm. I felt like it was God's plan for me. And so I had my leg amputated. Coming out of the surgery was the first time I had felt no pain in about 4 years. I felt great. I was numb from below the waist, but just I felt like not the pain, the physical pain, but the pain of knowing that you're going to die if they don't do something, and just not knowing when it's going to be over. And so now I've just had millions of opportunities that have been wonderful just because I've lost my leg. I still coach wrestling, and I still compete, and I've gotten to go to the Bahamas to speak motivationally to schools in the Bahamas. I went there on a mission trip, and they saw that I had one leg and that I was working as hard as anybody, and they asked me back, so I got a free trip to the Bahamas to talk to schools. Over there, the culture is a little different, where they, somebody with malady is really looked down upon. So I got to talk to some amputees there and tell them that there's hope and that it's actually a great life. And I got to, go to the Bahamas, have fun, and talk to kids, which I love. And when I go to wrestling tournaments and I compete, everybody that watches me, there's little kids that I see that I inspire them to work harder and to be great, and that no matter what is wrong with you, you can still do something great. And I think that's what God, I think that's what my life was for, is for God to show people that, losing a leg or losing an eye or anything should not slow you down and will not stop you from helping people. So when you help people, it helps you. And that's why I'm blessed that I had my leg amputated.